Okay, good morning. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. My name is Kerrie Niemeier and I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing for Well3 Tours. And thrilled to be here this morning to talk about a very exciting destination, Tanzania, and lots of wonderful information to share with you this morning about this epic journey this coming November. And I have a very special guest joining us this morning as well. She's also located in British Columbia. She works for a company called Bannikin, who are our receptive operator who help work with Tanzania Journeys. And Tanzania Journeys, of course, is the company that we are working directly with right in Tanzania, locally operated, owned company in Tanzania. So I'm thrilled to have Annie Bird with me this morning. So welcome to Annie.
Thanks, Kerrie.
Do you want to share a little bit about yourself and your background and a little bit maybe about Bannikin travel?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Thank you so much for having us. Hi, everyone. As Kerrie mentioned, my name's Annie, and I work for a company called Bannikin Travel and Tourism. And in my role at Bannikin, we really work with our global operators like Tanzania Journeys, who are collaborating with Wells Gray to bring you this amazing tour. And help them connect with the great outbound operators that we have here in Canada and the USA. So I've been working very closely on this itinerary for a little while now. We've been working very hard to bring it to you all. So happy to be here and tell you a little bit more about it.
Awesome, thank you. So a couple housekeeping things. We are recording the webinar this morning, so if you have any technical difficulties, I will mail this out after the webinar this morning. Also, if you have any questions that come up throughout the webinar, if you could say those until the very end or pop them into the question chat box, and Annie or myself will be happy to try to answer them, or we can follow up with the local office. So I am thrilled to talk about Tanzania. I have been able to do this trip. I was actually sent on a familiarization tour to Tanzania 6 years ago. Wells Gray Tours had not sold Tanzania yet, and we were offered the opportunity to bring travel agents over and see if it was a country that we could visit. And we have been selling it every year since, aside from COVID, of course, but it is the most special place I have ever traveled to. A very remarkable and humbling destination. I almost get emotional when I talk about it. I absolutely loved Africa, and Tanzania is a really special place in Africa. It's a World Heritage Site. It also has had the honor of being named a 7th World Wonder, and part of that being because of the Great Migration. So the Great Migration is the largest mammal migration that happens. Over 2 million animals are traveling across the plains from Tanzania to Kenya, following the rains. Over 500,000 wildebeest moving along those plains. And there are so many herds of wildebeest, you can actually see them from space during this time. So it is incredible. And you are there and they are running right by you, and it is just out of this world. And another really special point about Tanzania is that they have over 30% of their national parks that have been established as national parks and game reserves, so the animals are protected. So it is one of the best wildlife viewing destinations in the world. So some pretty special things about Tanzania. So we're going to jump right in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you can all see this screen. We've got a beautiful herd of elephants. The mountain in the back is Mount Kilimanjaro. So this is Tanzania. We are going this November 6th for 16 days. Now we have been filling up a lot of seats in the last couple of weeks. We've actually been selling this tour out quite quickly. So we only have 3 seats left. And it is a small group. We are just taking 25 people, and it is also an activity level 3. So we do like to point this out because you are traveling far, traveling through the Serengeti. You need to be able to get in and out of those safari jeeps walk on all those uneven surfaces, and just be able to move around comfortably. So we do have this labeled as an activity level 3, which means you will sign a waiver before you go on this tour. So getting started, we will be flying you on WestJet from your home cities to Calgary. We're actually going to overnight in Calgary at the Delta Hotel, which is located right beside the Calgary airport. It's really conveniently located in the terminal. We'll have a nice get acquainted dinner this evening, and then we'll be on our long flight the next morning. And we are flying with KLM. So we will be flying from Calgary to Amsterdam the next day, which is Tuesday, November 7th. And we arrive in Amsterdam the next afternoon. So this is on Wednesday. We'll be arriving in Amsterdam. We get there in the morning, and we will have a guide and a coach who will meet us right at the airport. And we will do a little bit of touring around Amsterdam, enjoy our afternoon there. So one of the highlights will be we will visit the renowned Rijksmuseum. And this has an exceptional collection of 15th and 17th century paintings. So we'll have time to explore this museum and then a nice relaxing evening. Then flying the next day on Thursday, flying with KLM again mid-morning and arriving into Kilimanjaro. So this flight is about 7.5 hours, and we will be 11 hours ahead of BC time at this point, but this will welcome us into Tanzania. And I will let you know that almost all the photographs in the slideshow today, myself and my husband took on our trip. So I'm very excited to share them. This is the first hotel we are staying at. We will be met by our Tanzanian guide and driver, and they meet us in Moshi, and we will stay in Moshi for a 2-night stay at this Kilimanjaro Wonders Hotel. It is rated as a 4-star property, beautiful pool, very nice grounds, excellent food, nice rooms. So really nice accommodations for your first 2 nights in stay. I don't know, Annie, is there anything else? Interrupt me as we go along.
Definitely, sure. Just to point out, this is a really cool way to start an itinerary in Tanzania. We think because a lot of people don't actually get to spend that much time in Moshi. They'll kind of go straight on to the game driving, but this is a really nice, I mean, of course, this day you'll arrive and kind of decompress and relax, but then your next couple of days in the area are also a really wonderful opportunity to see something that not a lot of people actually get to go and experience, which is something we're excited about, and we hope that you will be too.
Yes, when I did my tour, we also spent 2 nights in Moshi and were able to see a couple of the attractions that we're going to talk about here coming up. And it is a really nice overview of just learning about the culture and the people and the history behind Tanzania before you just jump into the game drive, as Annie mentioned. Yeah. So one of the first things, so we're on to day 5 already. This is on Friday. We're going to drive to the Uru village, and we'll be hosted by a local coffee cooperative. This is a fantastic farm. I did this exact tour. These are my photos, but you spend 3 hours learning about the history of the plantations, the coffee, how it's grown, and how all of these cooperatives work together. And this is a joint venture in this area of 3 different village groups in the Moshi district. And they have about 375 members. And these farmers each have plots of land that they are farming, mostly coffee, but they also have bananas, avocados, beans, and it's just a really awesome experience learning about the coffee, how they pick the beans and dry the beans. These are the ladies hand picking them, shifting them. The amount of work that goes into a cup of coffee is very, very impressive, and it's delicious coffee. You'll do a coffee tasting. This is a picture of them filtering the coffee for you and drinking it, and you can purchase coffee. So this is a really wonderful morning.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you're a coffee lover, you're literally involved with the picking all the way through till you get to enjoy that cup of coffee at the end, which is just not something, you get to do every day.
And it's amazing. We are so fortunate here. We go into a grocery store and we purchase our coffee, or we're driving through a Starbucks drive-through and not thinking about all the labor and hands and people that went into growing and picking and farming this amazing beverage that we all drink every day for the most part. So
Definitely.
Really interesting morning. Then here, I actually stayed on this farm. So this is a farm located very close to the coffee farm, and we will have a beautiful lunch here. And it's a really beautiful, they have some Airbnb properties that they rent out, but it's a beautiful place to wander around the gardens. We'll have a delicious lunch here. And there's a wonderful backdrop. So this picture is taken right from the gardens with Mount Kilimanjaro in the background. So a leisure morning at the coffee plantation, a beautiful lunch. And then in the afternoon, we do a 40-minute walk out to Mataruni Waterfalls. This is a beautiful, huge waterfall. You can actually take a dip in the pool. The water is very cold. It comes right rushing from Mount Kilimanjaro. But we took our socks and shoes off and went right in. And it's a nice, fairly leisure hike. It's not super difficult, but as you can see in the photos, you're kind of going up and down, but you can get quite close to the waterfall, and you will have a guide with you going along and explaining all of the natural flora and fauna as you're walking through.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a nice way to kind of spend the afternoon and start to learn more about, the landscape is so different in Tanzania than it is here. So learning about the flora and fauna, and then also so close to Mount Kilimanjaro, just a very special way to start your trip, and yeah, enjoy the area.
And then we're back to that same hotel we spoke about, overnight there. And then our next day on Saturday, we'll be doing a drive out into a village at the base of Mount Meru. And this is amazing. You are right immersed into the culture of the Warusha people and the Maasai. And it's just amazing to learn how these people live. And the shoes that they wear are mostly made of tires. They're basically this very small thong, like a flip-flop made out of an old tire. And so you'd just be fascinated to meet these people, the energy that they have. This picture, they did a dance for us, and they'll sing and they'll dance, they'll jump up and down, and they can jump like 8 feet in the air. It's just incredible. I absolutely loved this morning.
Yeah, it's such a special kind of visit, a boma, which is a homestead, a Maasai boma. And as Kerrie's mentioning, the culture of it is just incredible because it's so dynamic, and there's this kind of amazing combination of living in the modern world and also having a more traditional kind of culture. So being able to see that and ask questions and just meet people who are very much proud of this culture and wanting to share with you about what the dynamic culture of the area is like is just really, really, it's hard to put into words, Kerrie. I'm sure you'd agree. It's hard until you've experienced it. It's hard to put into words, but it is an incredible, incredible experience.
It really is. And the homes are made out of mud and straw for the most part, and just usually one room with very, just sort of straw beds. But we were actually invited into the homes and with the mothers and the children. I have a picture of the children. Oh, you just want to take them all home with you. They're just the most beautiful people, and they're friendly, and they're very curious about us as much as we are about them. And it's a really beautiful exchange of cultures.
Definitely.
And they make amazing jewelry. There's an opportunity throughout the local villages that you visit to buy the jewelry. The women all wear jewelry. It's very entwined in their culture and what colors they wear and how many necklaces they wear. But the jewelry is really beautiful. Lots of bracelets, so small pieces that you can purchase that helps them support their farming and buying cattle and things that they need money for. And then from here, we continue on to Tarangire National Park. We have 2 nights that we're staying in this really fantastic tented camp. And when we say tented camp, it is very luxurious. You're in sturdy structures, very nice properties with, you know, hardwood floors, beautiful beds, and you're looking out right over the Rift Valley. So sometimes you can see wildlife right from your room. This is a picture of the sort of dining room, the kitchen area. The food in Tanzania was fantastic. Everything is basically locally grown, and what they have in season is sort of what you're eating, but it's lots of delicious homemade breads and soups and fruits, different salads. Loved the food there, very fresh, lots of buffet style, but it's sort of indoor, outdoor seating. We are there in November. It's a nice time of year. We're sort of moving into that rainy season in Tanzania. So the temperatures are cooler, but it's still warm. So it's a good idea to wear layers, you know, short sleeves one day, it might need a long sleeve the next day, but not really super hot, but warm enough you could use the pools. A lot of the properties have very nice, refreshing pools. So this is just a quick picture sort of one of the rooms. So they do have, if it's a tent, it will be a canvas tent, so as what you see in this picture, but you feel like you're actually in a hotel room with the curtains and the pillows and the bed. If you would like to unzip your tent at night and have that extra fresh air, there is a mosquito net provided. But there's power in all of the hotels where you're staying. You always have power. You can charge your phone, charge your alarm clock, whatever you need to do. Anything else we should add about any of the hotel properties? We'll talk about sort of each one as we move along.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary of that one. It's super comfortable. And just if anyone's curious and thinking, okay, we're going into these national parks with lots of wildlife and now we're staying in tented camps, many of these camps and all of the ones that are included in this itinerary have a very kind of robust safety system set up. They've got fencing around the camp, in addition to having people who are kind of on the lookout for all kinds of animals at all hours. So it's a very special experience, but it's also a very safe experience if you were thinking of that.
It's true. One of the camps we stayed in, my husband and I, we're not staying here on this particular trip, on this itinerary, but we were in canvas tents out in the Serengeti, and there was a pride of lions less than a kilometer away, and we could hear them all night long. And it's a little bit terrifying, but you're very safe, and they do have guards who walk your tent 24 hours to keep you safe. The lions never came over to us, but it's this exhilarating experience where you're really part of the environment. And we woke up one night, heard these noises, and unzipped the tent, and there was a whole like bunch of zebras just right outside our tent, just grazing. So it's such a neat experience, but very safe. They take very good care of you, as Annie mentioned. So our next day, Sunday, was a very special day. I love elephants, and so this is we spent a whole day in Tarangire National Park, and it is famous for its huge herd of elephants, and they can have prides up to 300 elephants groups, so you will definitely see tons of elephants. There is also more than 550 different bird species, amazing birds in Tanzania. And also what's really awesome about this park is all of the baobab trees. These trees they play a huge role in the Tanzania ecosystem. They are known to have over 300 different applications for humans and wildlife. So this tree is actually one of the largest trees in the world, and they often live over 1,500 years, which is just amazing. And they store water. So the bigger they are, the more water they are storing. So humans and animals can tap into these trees and use them as a water source. So it's really fascinating. But they also have been used for their bark, their leaves. They grow fruit a certain time of year. The fruit is very high in vitamin C. There's a seed oil that's used as a moisturizer. So over 300 different uses just from this one tree. And so when you're on your safari, you really want to make sure you ask your guide about some of the stories and traditions regarding this tree.
Mm-hmm.
And I took this photo and I just love it with the elephant and the tree.
Mm-hmm. It gives you some good perspective of how massive those trees are compared to an elephant, like massive. And Tarangire is one of the smaller national parks in Tanzania, but as Kerrie's mentioning, it's one of the places you're most likely to see elephants and is very well known for those huge herds. Interestingly, and it didn't pop to the front of my mind when I first learned about Tarangire, but it's also known for these massive termite mounds that you'll see throughout that you don't always see in the other national parks. So it's just a really unique place and lots of great opportunity to see some game here.
Yes, the termite mounds, I forgot to add a photo of those. They will blow your mind. They're huge. You just can't believe how big they are. And then all of the animals that come to eat the termites, and just it's a food source for so many animals in the park. So here's just a couple shots of elephants that we took this day. And now I'm not a photographer. I didn't take a super fancy camera. I have a Samsung hand camera, which does have a zoom of 21 times. And I was able to get some really fantastic photos. Of course, some people brought beautiful cameras and you can get just amazing pictures. But even this day and age, like with a smartphone or a smaller camera, you're going to get shots like I did, like this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a full day enjoying that park. Then our next day, we're on to day 8 now. We're going to go into the town of Matawambu. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah.
But okay. And we're going to learn about several different cultures here. So lots of different tribes. And all the different tribes have something different to offer. So it sort of depends on what is working and happening during that day when we are there visiting. These men, are wood carving. The Chaga are very well known for their skills in wood carving and also brewing banana beer. So you might get to see and taste that. So maybe they're making swords that day, jewelry. So this is a really neat way, just different cultures learning about all of the different things they have to offer. This is just a picture of being in that village. So learning about sort of the history behind, how they're living their lives day to day. And as you can see in the photo, some people dressed very modern and then some people wearing traditional wear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's very, as Kerrie mentioned, it's just kind of no 2 days are the same here. It's very much you're kind of just going and being immersed, and whatever's going on that day, you might get to participate. You'll certainly learn. And so it's just a really cool way to, again, see that very like dynamic culture and the way that many of these different people are kind of coexisting in a modern world, 1 foot kind of here, 1 foot maybe in those more traditional cultures and practices. So it's just a really amazing way to kind of get a better understanding of what life is like in Tanzania.
Awesome. Then we have a 1-night stay at this luxury lodge, beautiful property right on Lake Manyara. And it has an awesome view perched right on the cliff top, beautiful pools. It's a beautiful setting, you're right into this rainforest. And so this is going to be a highlight, I'm sure, staying here. And then this evening is a really, really exciting night. You are having an early dinner and then heading out for a night game drive. And I did do this, and it is so cool. So you are in an open vehicle with your guide. He's got a light, and you're just driving through the park. And we saw animals hunting. This was a lion taken by, he had someone in our group who had a really great camera, but this lion was out hunting, and he's just right beside you out there in the dark. So it's a pretty exhilarating experience, and it's a whole new world when you're out there at night, because most of the animals in Tanzania sleep during the day because of the heat. And then at night they are hunting and stalking and living their lives. So you become part of that.
It's super cool to kind of go, like Kerrie mentioned, there is a light, but for the most part, it's like pitch black dark. And so you're kind of relying on your other senses. Then you can close your eyes and you're hearing. It's like, what can you hear? What can you smell? And it's just, the adventure of it is just as much part of actually seeing some of these animals. It's a totally different way to see game. And I think like one of the coolest experiences that you can have. It's just completely different.
And what is really nice about Tanzania is the animals are very well protected and respected. And there are a lot of restrictions around distance to animals and light. So even blaring the light on an animal who's hunting, the guides are all local Tanzanian people. So they try not to disrupt the cycle for these animals. So as she mentioned, it's often dark. They don't want to just throw a spotlight onto an animal. So it's just a really, you're part of the situation, but very quietly sort of in the background, as much as you possibly can be. Then our next day, so we're on to day number 9. We are going to drive to the highlands, to a town of smaller village, but it's called Karatu. And it is very well known for a hospital. It's called the FAME Hospital, which stands for the Foundation for African Medicine and Education. This hospital was founded in 2002, and their mission was to really get patient care to the northern highlands of Tanzania. And there really just wasn't any doctors, hospitals. These people are living out in the north part of Tanzania with really no nurses or doctors. So this was just a huge undertaking, and it's a state-of-the-art hospital. It's such an awesome visit, and they serve over 25,000 patients now a year. And this is the staff here in the photo that operate this hospital.
And it's quite fascinating. You'll get to see it as it is today, but when it started in 2002, it was an only mobile clinic. So they had kind of a van, and they'd kind of go around to different communities in the north. So being able to see what it is today, as Kerrie mentioned, it's like a state-of-the-art clinic, and the amazing work that they're able to do. They've come so far. It's 99% Tanzanian staff. So everybody who's part of this clinic, it's very much of the community and for the community. And I think it's just something that's really cool to behold. And especially when you know how far they've come over the past 20 years or so, it's just a good place to see and appreciate.
And you'll hear stories from people in villages as you're moving along, and they may have had to walk 3 days to get to healthcare, so it's just it's so interesting to hear about the healthcare in other countries and just maybe how difficult it is. But this has been a phenomenal project, and it's such a great visit. Okay, so this is just a picture of the sign for the hospital, and then this is actually a picture of the hospital and the grounds. Then from here, nice and close by, is a beautiful farm where we will be going for lunch. It's called Gibbs Farm, and my itinerary, we actually stayed overnight at the farm. and it was a coffee farm in the 1920s, sort of neglected through the war time, and then a farm. It was bought in 1948 by James Gibb, and he was a British war veteran, and he married a British woman who was by Tanzanian parents. So they had come, bought this property, and their goal was to create this beautiful, sustainable, organic farm to feed the people. And it's an extensive vegetable and flower garden. And James Gibb, he died in 1977, but Margaret continued to run this farm until 2003. And since then, it's been purchased, but the people who own it have continued this legacy of conservation, and it has been an organic farm for over 27 years. And it is such a beautiful farm. It's all run by the Tanzanian workers. And so you're going to get to go out and walk the farms and learn about all the vegetables and herbs that they grow. There's a coffee plantation on site, and then you're going to have this absolutely delicious lunch. The food was phenomenal here. This was one of my favorite days in Tanzania at Gibbs Farm.
Yeah.
I loved it. Then also on the property, they offer a hike through the Ngorongoro rainforest. So it's really neat. There's a guide. He will take you, so you are safe. You're always with a local guide that, you know, obviously carries a weapon to keep you safe because you are out in the wildlife. But just in this area, the elephants came up into the hills and dug out caves, looking for minerals for their diet. So they sort of create what we call elephant caves. So it's a really interesting walk, learning about the history and the land and some of the minerals and medicines. And then you may even see elephants along your way. Then tonight, we will be staying right in Ngorongoro. It's a farmhouse, really nice property with thatched roofs. You get this sort of very Tanzanian experience, but in a modern hotel. And it is on a 500-acre coffee plantation as well. So the grounds are very beautiful. And then we are off into spend the day exploring Ngorongoro Crater. And this is going to be a fantastic day. It is home to, they say, about 25,000 large animals. So this is your chance most likely to see the big five. They're all living in this very vast area. It is a crater that was created when a large volcano exploded and collapsed about 2 million years ago. So it's created this very, it's sort of its own ecosystem, and it's one of the densest populations for the largest mammals in Africa. So for that reason, you are going to get really up close and personal with all of the animals that live here. The rhino being one of the hardest ones you will see in Africa, but we did see a rhino in Ngorongoro Crater from a distance, but it's just an awesome experience. The only animal you most likely will not see in the crater is the giraffe, because it's so steep, the descent. The giraffes aren't living right down in this crater.
Yeah, it's such a special area because you'll see in that photo, there are kind of these really large hills, almost cliffs, and kind of acts as a natural pen or enclosure for these animals. And that's why there are so many down there. It's like a very fertile area where they can graze and find water, which makes it such a special place to see so many animals. Like Kerrie said, the rhino being one that you're more likely to see here than in other places. And it is quite a tough one to spot. So it's a good place to be if you do want to see all of the big five. It might be the place you'll get to check off the rhino.
And there's a huge lake within the crater as well, and there's lots of hippos here, so that's a really neat experience. They sort of pull the jeeps up, and you can watch the hippos getting in and out of the water, which is really neat to see. And you just slowly drive through, and it's huge. So you just spend the day animal viewing the whole day. So here's a picture of the wildebeest, the huge herds of the wildebeest, just moving along those plains throughout the crater. Then tonight we stay at the Ngorongoro Serena Lodge. This property is fantastic because it's really situated right on the cliff of the crater. So you're right kind of around that edge of the rim of the crater. So fantastic views, delicious dinner here, and then you'll be doing a 2-hour walk along the crater rim. Again, a ranger will be with you, but sort of an overview perspective of looking kind of over the crater that you just spent the day traveling through.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a picture of the lobby. So you can see you have beautiful views looking down into that crater and very comfortable accommodation, beautiful rooms. Then on to our next day. So we're on to day 11 and different visits this morning. We're going to visit an archaeological site, and I went here. Very interesting learning about, mankind and the beginning of man. But this was a picture of Lewis and Mary Leakey. They did research here in the 1950s, and what their discovery was, they found the earliest signs of mankind. They found footprints preserved in volcanic rock, which were 3.6 million years old. So this is a picture of the footprint that you will see. You can go right up, take photos, and just kind of learn all about this archaeological site.
Mm-hmm. And Kerrie mentioned at the top, just kind of being the experience of being in Tanzania can be very humbling, and it's not just the landscapes and the wildlife that can do that, but just seeing something like this that connects you to like 3.6 million years ago, like our ancestors. It's just such a special thing to be able to see something tangible like that helps us connect with our common human history.
It's really true. It's sort of like Africa gets into your blood. You almost feel like you're just part of something bigger. Mm-hmm. Is how you feel when you're there and traveling through. Mm-hmm. And then we continue on like this. So many highlights still coming. We are off into the legendary Serengeti. So the Serengeti covers over 15,000 square kilometers of grasslands. The plains, the name comes from the Maasai language, which means endless plains. That's what Serengeti is known for. And what's wonderful about this park is the wealth of the leopards and lions. And seeing a lion like this in the wild, it's unbelievable. So it's really unforgettable. And I have a picture as well of the leopard. So they're often up in the trees during the day sleeping, and the guides are very respectful, but they can drive the jeep fairly close, and you can just look up in the tree and just see the leopards above you. They are so beautiful.
And they're also some of the trickiest to spot. So if you do get to see a leopard, that is a very special thing.
Mm-hmm. They're so well camouflaged. I mean, most of the animals are very camouflaged. And so, my husband really zoomed in to get this photo, but from afar, you could barely see this leopard having a nap. Mm-hmm. And we were also very lucky to see a cheetah. Cheetahs, I think, are the hardest to spot. They're very quick, they're camouflaged, they're shy. This one happened to just be running across and stopped very quickly to look back at us. Wow. And we'll have 2 nights staying in the Serengeti. So at the Serena Safari Lodge, I stayed at this property. It's beautiful individual little rooms in these bungalows. You have panoramic views of the Serengeti. So it's a really nice African architecture. It is, 5-star place, and beautiful pool, beautiful dining room. So you're quite spoiled staying here. Then we have another full day in the Serengeti. So another day spending time through the park, doing a full day game drive. This is an early morning. This day they do get you up very early to start at 6 a.m. To go out in the morning when it's still cool. All the animals are waking up. They're busy in the morning, so your chances of seeing more wildlife in the morning are high. So it's worth it to get up very early and get out there. Giraffes walking right by your vehicles. It's awesome. And then you will return to the lodge for breakfast. So this day there is also an option. So you get up really early. Just another picture of the giraffe. These are the baboons, little baby baboons. They're so cute. The zebras. I feel every animal in Africa was my favorite. And my guide kept saying, Kerrie, I thought elephants were your favorite. Now zebras are your favorite. Now hippos are your favorite. You have to pick one. I couldn't pick. I just absolutely loved them all.
It's too hard.
It's way too hard. They're all so unique and different. This baboon, I got really an amazing shot of his face.
Wow.
Even the hyenas were fascinating. One was having a nap. The hippos, you learn all about hippos. They're huge. They're fast. They're very fast, and actually they're considered the most dangerous animal in Africa.
Wow.
Another cute one of the giraffe. Okay, so on this day, you can do the early morning game drive at 6 a.m. You go out, do the drive, come back, have breakfast, or there is an option. It is an extra cost. I did pay for this. It was 100% worth it. I had never been on a hot air balloon, and if you've never been on one or you have and you loved it, the place to do this is in Tanzania, in the Serengeti. So you're doing a hot air balloon safari, and it is absolutely magical. So you're getting out to that balloon, you're getting into it, you're flying up as the sunrise is coming up over the Serengeti plains, and you're seeing the spectacular scenery and the view of the park, the landscape, and the animals. And we had a herd of wildebeest run underneath the balloon, and you're just floating very quietly, safely above them. It was absolutely epic. So this is just a picture of the shadow of our balloon floating over the plain. And then this was a herd of elephants that we floated over. And landing kind of came down very close to a hippo pond. But it's a whole new perspective of the Serengeti. And then after you land, you will also have breakfast, but it's a champagne breakfast, and you eat right out in the Serengeti. They set up tables right out in the plains with guards around, of course. The animals are not interested in us. They are really interested in what they're doing, so you don't have to worry about that. This is just a quick picture of my husband and I at the champagne breakfast after we had landed. So then our next day, so day 13, this was kind of a sad day because it's our last day in Tanzania, but we do a morning game drive. So more opportunities to see animals en route back to the airport. And then we will be flying back to Kilimanjaro. We'll have a bit of a layover there, but we do have day rooms that are provided so you can have a rest. We will have dinner, and then we fly an overnight flight on KLM again back to Amsterdam.
And the flight back from Serengeti is almost like a little bonus, just because the landscape is so beautiful, looking out over, all of that on your way back to Moshi and Kilimanjaro is a cool way to end it, although it's bittersweet, like you said, Kerrie. Bittersweet to be leaving.
Yes, and some people go very quickly in and out of Tanzania and do a 3 or 5 day game drive. But I love this itinerary because you really are spending time learning about the people, the culture, and not just doing a game drive. So it's a really nice all-inclusive way to really learn and become part of Tanzania. And when I left, it wasn't if I would go back. It was like, when am I coming back?
Yeah. This is such a nice itinerary for that, because like you said, I think it's quite common to do like a 5-day safari and you just land and boom, you're in the vehicle and you're driving for 5 days and then you're leaving. But this is such a nice mix of course you get that because you couldn't go to Tanzania and not do any game driving. But there's so much culture to it as well. You really kind of get to go at a slower pace. The guides are fantastic. They're amazing. They are from Tanzania, so they are showing you around their home. And all of the guides that I've met for, Tanzania and that work with Tanzania Journeys are just amazing. They love what they do. They love Tanzania and they love to show off their home that they're so proud of. So it's just a really beautiful way to see the area.
Yeah, we were so impressed with the guides. They speak English, they've gone to school, they've studied the ecology, they've studied about the flora and fauna. They are very well educated. They know everything about the land. They train for many years to learn the different routes through the Serengeti and to know and respect the animals. So they're just wonderful. They take very good care of you. My husband became very good friends with a couple of them. We're still in touch with them, which is really neat.
Mm-hmm.
So they just become like family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then from there, as I mentioned, we'll be flying into Amsterdam. We like to break this up so you're not flying directly home because it is quite exhausting. So we will be staying overnight in Amsterdam and doing a tour of Amsterdam. We have a free day here, so we will be taking you out and do a guided tour so you can see some of the famous spots around Amsterdam, like the floating flower market, the Waterloo Square. So you do have this nice afternoon visit to see all the colorful houseboats and get a little feel of Amsterdam, a nice dinner and rest before we fly you home. And we will be flying back into Calgary again, and then Calgary back onto your home city. Mm-hmm. So that sort of ties up the itinerary for Tanzania. Now, I like to do giveaways for these webinars, and what I'm going to do today is I put everyone's name who's registered for the webinar into a draw, and I'm going to give away 2 books this morning. These are 2 books that I absolutely loved. I read after I had been to Tanzania, but they're written by Lawrence Anthony, and he devoted his life to animal conservation, really protecting some of the world's endangered species. And he was brought in to sort of help take care of this elephant herd, and if he didn't take them, it was sort of their last chance to survive. So he became, many years lived there and battled to create saving this herd of elephants. Drew this amazing bond with them and really realized how much they taught him about life and loyalty and freedom. So he wrote this beautiful book, which is a true story, of course. So we'll give away that. And then also, while he was there, one of the most unforgettable characters that he fell in love with was the rhinos. And he learned that there were really only a handful of the northern rhinos left. And if he didn't save them, it would be, if they went extinct, we hadn't lost a mammal this large to our planet since the woolly mammoth. So it sort of became his dream to help this animal conservation to save these rhinos. So fascinating book. So really great to read probably before you go to Tanzania and just sort of learn a little bit about the history of the animals and some of the preservation that's happening to save some of these wonderful animals. So I'll do that quickly. We'll go ahead and spin the wheel. Let me know, Annie, can you see that wheel?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to spin it twice. So the first one is for the elephant whisperer. And our winner is Marion Hannaford. So congratulations, Marion, and I'll be mailing you that book.
Congratulations.
Yay! And then also for the rhino, the last of the rhinos goes to Lillian Dunbar. So congratulations, Lillian. That's very exciting. I think you are both going to absolutely love both of these books. So I will be mailing both those to you. But I just want to say thank you on behalf of Wild Grey Tours, Tanzania Journeys, and Annie from Bannikin. We love this country. As you can tell, maybe I get emotional. I love talking about Africa. Love talking about Tanzania. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. We can pass them on to Annie. If you do have any questions, you can pop them in the chat box. Maybe right now we can try and answer them. I know some questions that often come up are vaccinations. So what we always recommend is that you do visit a travel health clinic before traveling to a country like this. There are no mandated required vaccines for Tanzania at this time. So you may have heard of yellow fever, but that vaccine is not required for Tanzania. So you don't need the yellow fever vaccine, but we still recommend you go to a travel clinic. Sometimes they recommend malaria for different parts of Tanzania. We are mostly in the northern part of Tanzania, which malaria isn't really an issue there. But again, this is personal preference. If you really wanted to take malaria precaution pills, you could. I did not take them. I was fine. You may have a little bit of rain, but the bugs really weren't terrible. You should have a good mosquito repellent, perhaps. Some nice layers, as I mentioned, because it can be quite warm, but then cooler. You want some longer sleeves, things like that. Also for COVID, the COVID vaccine is not mandatory in Tanzania, so you're not required to have it. They recommend it, but it won't be mandatory. So that's something to keep in mind. One other thing, we will be obviously sending out our packing list of what we suggest you bring along on this style of a tour. Good hiking shoes, of course, a hat, sunscreen. And one interesting thing is about clothing and colors. So they really want you to wear very muted colors like beige and green, maybe not white because it gets dirty really quickly, but you want to pack light, breathable clothes and not very bright colors because it could be distracting for the animal. And I believe camouflage is not, they don't like you to wear camouflage. So we'll have all of that in our packing list as well for you. I'm just trying to think of anything else that often comes up. We talked about power. There is power in all of the hotels. You don't have to worry about that. Clean drinking water will be provided.
Yep.
Any questions? I'm going to have a quick pop into the chat. So maybe we answered quite a few questions for people. So I mentioned at the beginning, there are just 3 seats left. We had quite a few seats left, and then in the last couple of weeks, this tour has been booking up really quickly. So just 3 seats left. So if you're interested or you have questions, reach out to us sooner than later. Because if it doesn't fill, I will be going back like that.
Maybe I'll go with you.
Let's go, yes.
That'd be great. I've got a question from Jill. Your TD is with you.
Oh, great. Okay, so Jill has traveled with our tour to Tanzania. She has taken our group, so she will be taking our group again in November. So she's been and done this tour, and she joined us for the webinar, which is great. So thank you, Jill, for joining us. And Jill is a very good resource as well. If you have questions, we can put you in touch with Jill. Yeah, definitely.
She's not sure yet. She's not sure yet if she'll come, but maybe.
Oh, okay. Maybe it hasn't been assigned yet.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think, is there any other question?
It doesn't look like it right now.
Okay, well, thank you, Annie. Thank you for joining us and adding all those tidbits of information.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. This is a very cool itinerary, and I'm always happy to chat with people about it because like you said, just such a special place and a great way to go and see it.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much to everyone on behalf of Wellsbury Tours and behalf of Bannikin Travel. And please reach out if you have any questions.
Oh, Dawn has a question.
Okay.
Do we need visas? Yes. Any American or Canadian visiting Tanzania does need a visa, but it's a very quick and simple process. It's you can apply beforehand, but you can also apply for a visitor tourist visa when you arrive in Tanzania. So yes, but a very simple process.
I remember, I mean, we went with a travel agent group, but we paid for the visas when we arrived at the airport in Moshi, I'm pretty sure. And it was just an easy, sort of like a customs form you fill out, and then you paid, I believe it was about $20 US or something. So I'm sure we'll have that information for you, but most likely you won't have to do it ahead of time. You'll just do it as a group when you arrive.
And Jim asks, what currency should we bring?
So, yeah.
You go ahead, Kerrie.
Okay, so let me just, think of the name of it.
The local currency in Tanzania is called the Tanzanian shilling. But widely in kind of the tourism space in Tanzania, they will accept US dollars. I'm not 100% sure on the Canadian dollar, but it's you can have a bit of a mixture is what we usually see.
Yeah, and I would definitely recommend both. You'll find in those sort of larger villages, they're very happy for the US dollars. So if you want to buy small pieces of jewelry like the necklace I'm wearing, you know, US is very well taken, but when you get to those really small communities a bit further north, you know, they can't necessarily use that US. They're not coming into these larger towns. So to have a few shillings on hand, you could do that ahead before you go, or there may be an opportunity there are banks available in Moshi, and they took our group to the bank so we could exchange US for shillings. So just so we had some when we started to drive further away from those larger communities, because it is really nice to have, you know, small amounts of change on you. So if you want to buy a $2 bracelet or a $4 necklace, and then you can give them $5. So I definitely recommend having a little bit of both. Most likely you won't be using a lot for your credit card unless you're in the hotel and want to purchase maybe a bottle of wine with dinner or something like that. You can definitely use your credit card. But the shopping that you'll do will be in just small US or that small amount in shillings.
Okay.
Yeah.
That looks like the last question that we've got for now.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, thanks again, everyone, and take care, Annie, and reach out if you have any questions, and we wish you all safe and happy travels, of course, and I know you're going to have a phenomenal time if you are booked on this tour. I want to hear all about it when you're back, please. Yes.
Me too.
Okay, take care, everyone. Thanks so much.